Hi guys and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Zwanndanana, and in this video today I want to talk about 4 strategies you need to put in place as soon as possible if you want to quicken your financial freedom. Okay, so I know that financial freedom is the definition which differs from one person to the next, but the way I look at it is the ability to be able to make choices, to make decisions without the burden of thinking about the stress of money that is associated with that decision. So it's just a little bit of more flexibility in living your life freely, right? And of course, free life and flexible life differ from one person to the next. So depending on the definition you have put in your for yourself of what financial freedom looks like, it will determine the amount of money associated with these strategies that I'm going to talk about. Okay, so stay tuned. Before I continue, make sure you subscribe, like, and comment, and give me a purple heart if you're going to watch until the end. Okay, so strategy number 1, you have to have an emergency fund, and you really have to get into the habit of having an emergency fund at all times. Right, I think I've spoken about emergency fund a lot on this channel, and it simply stresses the importance of the account, right? So emergency fund, as the name says, is an account in which you create in case of an emergency. So you put a certain amount of money aside so that when an emergency happens, you have money to cater for that emergency. For an example, for someone like me, if I need to go home in Limpopo very quick, I need to at least have 3K to be able to do everything smoothly. So that's something which I need to think of when I put my emergency fund in place, right? If you don't have your tire covered by insurance, you need to have that in case of a tire punch, those kind of things. So the way you want to plan your emergency fund is by thinking on the type of things that could happen that you want to have money for, right? So I know that the financial world and financial planners actually recommend for us to have 3 to 6 months worth of our living expenses on our emergency fund. It sounds like it's a lot, but really through COVID, I learned that that's not a lot because you can possibly lose your job. So it's important that you build your emergency fund to get to that. So just in case you lose your job, therefore you'll be able to sustain your lifestyle until the time where you can get another job, right? So the way I look at emergency fund is a do-it-myself insurance. To be honest, we have insurances for all these other things, house, cars, because it's that important. You don't want to find yourself in a place where you need money and you cannot access money. So one key thing when you're creating an emergency fund, just make sure that you put that money in an accessible account so that when an emergency happens, you don't have to rely on credit cards or borrowing money from people because you cannot access your emergency fund. And guys, a credit card is not an emergency fund. If you do check the interest rates they charge on your credit card, really you'll be cautious on how you utilize it, right? So yeah, build an emergency fund. And how does emergency fund link into financial freedom? It's that at least you know that in case at any point in your life, in case of an emergency, you have your emergency covered. You don't have to dip into your savings, right? Okay, number 2, a strategy that you need to put in place is a retirement plan, right? I know that if you work for a government, you probably have a pension fund. If you work for private company, you have a provident fund, right? But it is also important to know on what investments is your provident fund invested in and how is it performing. I think the last time I checked, guys, really those things are not growing. I wonder where they actually put our money. And I think the exposure of offshore investment that you can do on your retirement and on your provident fund, it's increased, but yet I don't see the changes in terms of performance on my retirement, on my provident fund. I keep on saying retirement annuity, on my provident fund. So please check the performance, check how much you currently have. It's very, very important. And what is more important is understanding how much would you need in time of retirement. And for you to determine that, you need to know at what age do you want to retire. After determining that, how much money do you want to be having to sustain your life after you have retired? Then you can calculate how much do you need on your retirement fund, on your pension fund, ultimately for you to retire, right? And if it's not enough, let's say on your pension fund or provident fund, it's very important that you open a retirement annuity to compensate for either a provident fund or for pension fund. And also, if you're a freelancer, it's very important to open a retirement annuity. What I like about retirement annuity is that all investments that are done on retirement annuity, they are tax deductible, so that's such a plus, right? So please try to think about that. And I know that a lot of young adults think that retirement is very far. The funny part is, once you start retiring, or once the time approaches where you retire, you start realizing that you're in trouble, and at that point you cannot really do anything about it, right? So you find that you only have $1 million, and if you were earning 500,000 per annum, $1 million can only last you 2 to 3 years, right? Considering the lifestyle that you were living with that 500,000 per annum, right? So we need to think about those things, and we need to make plans on those things so that we don't become a burden and we don't stress ourselves as well because we could not afford the lifestyle that we were living. Stats actually says that only 6% of South Africans actually retire comfortably, and this means that they can afford the lifestyle that we're living before, right? So please, guys, let's put plans in place and structures in place as well that can allow us to retire early. You know, having a business that you know that it will still generate income even after you're retired, or putting passive incomes, just dividends, in place so that when you retire, you can still rely on that, you know, income or rental property, you know, whichever works for you. But the time to start building that is now. Okay, so number 3, it's a tax-free savings account, right? Tax-free savings account is not necessarily a savings account, it's an investment account, because you really need to maximize on the time so that compound interest can work for you, right? So for those who do not know, a tax-free savings account is an account that allows you to invest and save without getting taxed on interest rate, capital gains, and dividends, right? So today, if you invest or if you save, you will get taxed on the return or the income that you generate through your investments, right? If you're saving with a bank and your interest rates exceeds 23,800 Rand, you will definitely get taxed. Dividends, you get flat 20% tax. So in investments in which you're doing, there's also tax, and that is painful. So we need to make sure that we maximize the tools that allow us to not get taxed, because truly, guys, we cannot only work for SARS. Going back to the investment portion of the tax-free savings account, right? So the longer you stay on a tax-free savings account invested, the better, because imagine having 500,000 in your account that is invested, that is generating capital gain and is generating dividends, and without any tax that you're paying from it. That's when you start realizing the true benefits of a tax-free savings account, right? There's only limited number of tax-free structures, and we need to maximize on all of them for us to make sure that we have good enough money that is working for us without losing too much, right? So also, the time to start on a tax-free savings account, to open one, is now. So you are only allowed to deposit 36,000 per year and 500,000 in a lifetime, which is, you know, non-taxable, right? So the earlier you start, the better, and it's better to not withdraw so that you can have more money in that account without getting taxed. Lastly, but not least, it's a savings account. Guys, this looks so obvious, sounds so obvious, and I'm sure everyone's like, yeah, you must save. We know you must save. But if really you're planning on achieving whatever it is that financial freedom means to you, you really need to get into the habit of saving, right? Guys, living below your means is not a comfortable thing. Knowing that you have 100K, but yet you need to only use 60% of that, it's not nice, because there's always things which we want, that we want to buy, we want to use with our money now. But really, you have to make a decision on, do I benefit now, instant gratification, or do I save and get the things which I want so that I can live a more comfortable life? So you really have to make that decision. For me, I think the discipline of saving is the one which I feel like we need to be nurturing, especially as the younger generations. We need to nurture that discipline. Unfortunately, for most of us, we earn a salary, and a salary doesn't come as a bulk. It comes on a monthly basis, and you still have, things which you want to do. So for you to do something big with your salary, you need to get into the habit of saving, so that once you have saved, towards the end of the year, you can say, I have 150,000 or I have 70,000, and then you get to do a bigger thing, right? Because with your monthly salary, maybe your disposable income is only 5,000 rand, and what can you do with 5,000 rand? It's only limited. Unlike being able to save those 5,000 rand for 12 months, and then now you have 60K. Now you can, deposit for a house, or you can pay lawyers without 60,000. So the habit of saving is the thing which unlock bigger goals, or big goals that requires high value. So let's get into the habit of saving, so that it will get to a time where we are flexible to choose, right? For an example, if you have kids and then you're planning on sending them to nice schools, right? If you save early, right, during the time in which kids starts going to university, you're probably going to have the comfort of just paying the school fees cash. And some of the universities or some of the schools, when you pay cash, they actually give you 10% discount. So then you get the benefit of actually having a lump sum of money. So that's it from my side. Let me know what you feel like is important to you, and what you feel like you want to prioritize at this point in time, or what you feel like is a nugget. Again, guys, if you watched until the end, give me a purple heart. Again, I love you. Cheers. Goodbye.